Hi everybody, welcome back. If this is your first video, hi, I'm Shelby and welcome to Gingerboom Studios. I am so proud of myself for posting weekly. I promised myself I would, and I am so proud. So, before we get into the topic of today's video, please go watch Birds of Prey. I saw it recently in theaters and it was phenomenal. I'm a huge DC comic fan and I just thought it was very, very good. I'm trying to say hi on the screen, but the camera's pointed at a really weird angle, so I had a really hard time. Anyway, today I'm trying to draw characters from certain anime in my style. I drew the characters on the right from Little Witch Academia, but I'm trying to get my style down a little bit better. It has been a process. So, let's get into the topic for today of, do I think that art teachers from high school or middle schools should be encouraging kids to draw in an anime or manga-esque style? And I've seen a lot of YouTube videos that I've watched where teachers have been very discouraging, and for various reasons, and I think that that's a very interesting thing. So before I give my opinion, I'd like to give my own personal experience. So in middle school, I had teachers who were very discouraging. They really wanted us to try and start studying more realistically, and it was pretty frustrating. I grew up in the era of Pokemon and Digimon and Sailor Moon and Yu Yu Hakusho, so it was very frustrating because I loved this art so much. But I mostly didn't listen to the art teachers and just did what I wanted because it's middle school, so I really didn't care. But in high school, I was very lucky to have an art teacher. His name was Miss Fitz. She was the shit, and she was very supportive. When it came time, though, sometimes she would be like, hey, we have to do a still life, or hey, we have to do like a more realistic portrait, and I was totally fine with that because of how supportive she was. And because she was so supportive, through the style, I learned how to draw hands. I learned about shading. I learned about painting. It's very, very helpful for her to put it in that kind of context. So I'm going to give my opinion about whether I think teachers should encourage it. And my answers are yes and no. So, yes, because I think one, it encourages drawing, and two, I think acting like all of anime and manga are a monolith is kind of racist. Because when we talk about Western animation, we talk about things very separately and very distinct, and we talk about everything like it's incredibly unique. But when it comes to Japan, we act like anime and manga are all the same thing, they're all the exact same style, when really, anime is just Japanese animation, and manga is just Japanese comics. So it really doesn't make any sense when there's so many different style variations. Like Dragon Ball Z doesn't look like Studio Ghibli, and Studio Ghibli doesn't look like Pokemon, and Pokemon doesn't look like Little Witch Academia. Like, they all have some similarities. Like, sometimes Western animation will have similarities to each other, but they are not all the same, you know? So acting like they are is kind of ridiculous. And I don't know, it's just very annoying that they act like it's all the same when there are plenty of Western artists that are very bad. And I think the number one complaint from art teachers is that anime isn't anatomically correct. Well, Charlie Brown isn't anatomically correct, but I never hear that same argument about the same thing. Now, a lot of art teachers also look down on comics as a whole, or really any kind of commercial art as a whole, which is very offensive, which is why it was really great that I had a art teacher, Miss Fitz, who went for graphic design, which is a more commercial art field traditionally. So it was very cool to get that kind of perspective instead. But that being said, I feel like there's a specific disdain for manga and anime when most art, including traditional like paintings and things like that, aren't always very anatomically correct either. And that's either because the painter is learning or because they decide to stylize it on their own, and it's quite annoying. Hyperrealism isn't the only art style out there, and it is a commendable, beautiful thing. But you should do whatever you enjoy. You should be drawing what you enjoy. And that's what I've been trying to do lately, is just draw what I enjoy and stop judging myself so heavily. But I will always be very influenced by Japanese animation because it's something that I grew up with. It is something that has influenced the way I want to tell stories. It has influenced my very core, and it's just a very Western idea to just group an entire country's worth of animation into just this thing that we can write off and act like it's all the same. We can act like none of it is different from each other, and it's ridiculous. But I also think, on top of the cultural implications of just trying to shut children off from other cultures and other, ways of making art and the way things look, and just also the kind of very Eurocentric implications of that as well, because most art teachers aren't talking about African animation. They're not talking about Asian animation. They're not talking about South American animation. It's very, very annoying and kind of blatantly racist. Europe is not, in America now, are not the only places that make art. And it's very annoying and offensive that if you want to learn about art from other countries, especially in colleges, you have to take separate classes. But I think especially in high schools, it's a plague. I think studying any kind of art form, whether it's anatomically correct or not, whatever they want to say, you can learn plenty of other things from these art forms. Like shading is a great example, because most art has shading. You can learn a lot of that from anime and manga. Actually, I had this one how to draw manga book. It wasn't one of the really bad ones. It was actually a really good one, where it actually went over in detail realistic human proportions and then showed you the idea of stretching it and changing it, and head size and eye size, and changing all of these things to express different things that you want. And that's so interesting still to me, because we still push a lot of these things in Western and American cartoons. Steven Universe is a great example, or even She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a great example. They are not anatomically correct, but they do not get the same criticism. But the styles are so very interesting, and you don't have to be anatomically correct to make beautiful, interesting art. So I kind of think that's one straw man argument, but at the same time, you can learn shading, you can learn color theory, you can learn about line art. Like, do you know how long I practiced line art in making my own comics that were based on manga and anime, which I did like every summer? I practiced it so much. Am I good at it now? Not really. I need to keep practicing again, but I didn't draw for 3 years, so there's that. Anyway, I think there's so many wonderful, beautiful skills, and if you want to keep drawing that way, even after you've been through college, or if you don't want to go to college or whatever, you can make a living that way. Lots of people buy work that is inspired by Asian art, as long as you are being mindful and you are saying that you were inspired by it. I think one of the most relevant examples is Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it is clearly inspired by Asian art, and they said that to begin with. So it's a very successful, very beautiful show that I absolutely adore. And I think it was very respectful of several different Asian cultures, and it was very, very nice to watch. So I just want to get to my last point of the no portion of why you shouldn't always encourage kids to draw this way, is because I think all styles should be recognized, and that you should practice lots of different things. So sometimes, you got to do a still life, or sometimes you got to do a portrait. And for me, it was great because I would just add what I learned from portraits or from still lives into the way that I draw, or into the way that I think about drawing. And it was very helpful, even now, thinking about some of the things I learned. So, that being said, I think you can set boundaries, because my teacher was very good at being like, okay, this project you can do whatever you want, whatever style you want, whatever medium you want, and then the next project she would be like, okay, we're doing one of these mediums and you have to do a portrait that's as realistic as you can get. And I respected that. I really did. it could get a little frustrating because sometimes I just wanted to draw what I wanted to draw, but that's all kids, that's all artists. We hate being told what to do. I think that's one of the things I hated about college too. College also, honestly, really looked down on it, and it was very frustrating to me. But yeah, here's my sketches to prove that I can draw. I'm still really trying to get the hang of my style. First of all, Diana's hair from Little Witch Academia is not fair. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Hope you enjoyed. And bye.